Yeah, thank you, Jim. My name is Dr. Lee Osler. I am a dentist in the state of Washington, in the United States. Tonight, we can say, at least on the Pacific coast in the United States, that it is 5 o'clock here, and it's 5 o'clock somewhere else for sure. So we're going to get this kicked off and get going. We welcome everybody as you come in. Please enter the chat. Let us know where you're coming from. I'm joined by Jim Glenn, who's our co-host on our Redox 5 webcast. He is a recovering stockbroker in San Antonio who is full-time with this company, ASEA Global. And before we begin, we will indicate that we are all associates of the company, ASEA. And this is a cellular health company that is a supplement. Therefore, it is governed by the FDA rules of supplements, where we do not make any claims or to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This is a cellular health product.
Start video.
It sounds like we have our panel complete here. We're joined tonight by three nurses: Rebecca Weems, Doria Stewart, and Kaye Copier. And so we're going to pass the baton around and hear each of their stories and their take on what cellular health is and how this has impacted their life, both as a health aspect as well as why they're involved with us. So let us start tonight with Rebecca. For those who may not know you well, could you begin by just introducing yourself and where you're located and why you are even with ASEA? How did this happen for you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Again, my name's Rebecca, and I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I've been a North Carolinian all of my life. I was introduced to ASEA back in 2010, and I'm always really honest. I went to check out the company because it was a free trip. So I told my friend, let's go on a trip? She said, let's go. So we went. And when I got there, I didn't know anything about redox signaling. I'd been out of nursing school a long time, but I knew I really have a strong intuition about things. There's not too much that you can pull over on me. I might not let you know I know it, but I know what's going on. I don't know how to describe it. It's sometimes a gift and sometimes a curse. But I knew when I was there that the company was good. I knew the people in the company were good. And that's the only reason I signed up, because I didn't know anything about the product, of course. And I came home and I told Ed, I signed us up. And we didn't do anything with it for 4 years. And then we decided to revisit it. All during that time, Ed was being pitched for every product you can think of. And I was willingly, maybe stupidly, the guinea pig. And I would just say, I don't care how good the opportunity is. The product just isn't what it's cracked up to be. And I would never get behind it. I just simply wouldn't. So when he revisited, go ahead.
Rebecca, did you drink the product at all those first 4 years?
I did not. Ed did.
Did Ed?
Like he was supposed to. He didn't drink it like he was supposed to. But okay. I did do, when he said, let's revisit this, so we did, I started to do research, and it was pretty clear the importance of redox signaling for our health. I mean, it's so clear today that I don't know how anyone could ever question it. My only remaining question at that time was, how do I know that what is in this bottle is really and truly redox signaling molecules? And it wasn't long before an independent laboratory out of none other than North Carolina took the product and said they were going to publish the results. And they verified that inside the bottle were trillions of redox signaling molecules. And at that point, that's when I felt good about sharing it. You can count on what I tell you is what I believe to be the truth. I don't sugarcoat things. I don't skirt around things. I always appreciated it in medicine. being honest with my patients and not just making a pretty picture. The worst thing I ever heard nurses say, oh, it's all going to be okay. You don't ever say that. You don't know if it's going to be okay. So I will sometimes criticize for that, but that's all right too. So I
Rebecca,
knew.
did you look, what research did you look at back then? Was it the David Neiman?
I do all my research on PubMed.
Oh, you do? Okay.
That's just my go-to. And that's where I send other healthcare professionals to. And if somebody's watching, I always tell them, just look at the abstract and the conclusion. Because you're not a scientist, you don't understand lab techniques. I wouldn't even know what they were talking about if I tried to read it, and it's pages long. So I just read the abstract and then I read the conclusion. And I've not yet found any condition for which redox signaling molecules do not benefit. You know, it might say more research needs to be done to verify how much this can benefit this disease or this whatever. But I've never found one that discounted the importance of redox signaling molecules, not one. And I tell people after all these years, research was real important to me. In fact, I'm so neurotic about it that I'll go off on a rabbit trail and spend unnecessary hours, just looking up other stuff. But as I'm researching, I remember research is important, but not as important as results. There's been lots of research done for medications, and you and I know that the results did not indicate what the research showed. So the results, I've seen too many results now to ever question redox signaling molecules by any study that's ever done or any research that's ever done. In fact, you've heard us tell this story before, Jim. We had an event in Pinehurst and I had 4 medical professionals. I won't name them because I'll preserve their dignity on here tonight. But anyway, I said, I want you to tell us how you got involved, with ASEA and what the product, you think about the product. And they all finished. And I said, I got to ask you a question. And I said, which is more important, research or results? And they all had to say research. Because if you're an MD, you got to say research, right? And I got tickled and I said, you're right, it's important. But every one of you had your head turned by this product based on seeing a result first. You know the story, Dr. Rich Michael. He saw results first and then bought all the textbooks to go back to college, to medical school, if you will, to learn all the things about redox signaling molecules. So I've seen too many results now it's kind of like, you've heard me say this before, once you've had a heaven experience, no one can argue with you about it because all they have is an argument. I have an experience, you have an argument. It's kind of the same way with redox signaling molecules. We've had too many experiences to be at the mercy of an argument. We know that it works.
If you don't mind real quick, Rebecca, can you, in your words, explain, well, first, if you don't mind, giving the medical disclaimer. Okay. And then if you don't mind, if I'm brand new, I have no idea what the heck we're talking about here. Can you explain in your words, what are we discussing?
So my disclaimer is very, very clear. This product does not cure or heal anything. What it can do is help to set up an environment in your body that allows it to do exactly what God made it to do, to heal itself. God made our bodies amazing, with amazing abilities to take care of itself. Right. And I am absolutely a living and walking testimony of that. So again, like I said, there is no argument that you can come at with me because I've had too much experience.
And what are we discussing tonight? What are these molecules all about? How would you explain that really on my simple terms, not in your medical terms, but how would you explain it to someone that's not medical?
I'm going to explain it to a 10-year-old.
Thank you. That's about my level.
This product signals cells, bad cells to repair, really bad cells to destroy, good cells to keep on being good, to keep on replicating. And that's just about as simple as it can get. And I like to stick with it that simple. Then if somebody says, I want to know more, then you can go to the next step of getting all the way to Dr. Lee Osler's scientific explanations. But, the average person needs a very, very simple, and I use the telephone analogy. You can have the brand new cell phone, but if you're where you have no reception, it's no good. And that's exactly the way it is with redox signaling molecules. And as you age, they decrease in production. Therefore, or if you're in a disease state, you just don't make enough to carry you through. This product is an identical supplement to what's already in your body. And I kind of leave it at that. I don't make it any more difficult than that unless they want more information.
Okay, cool. I want to get to your testimonial here in a bit, but Doria, if you don't mind kind of popping on real quick, kind of give us a little bit of your background. Where do you live? You're an East Coaster as well. I think we have one West Coaster here with Kaye. But what's your story? You've been a nurse for 43 years?
Yes.
And you still practice. You're still working. That's awesome. Give us your story. How did you hear? Yeah, just
whatever I want to say. Okay. So I'm from Georgia. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm not originally from Georgia. I'm from the North, Delaware. So I'm a Yankee that got transplanted to Atlanta. But this was introduced to me. Well, my field of nursing is different. I have been in med surg for 21 years. I've done psychiatric nursing. I've done surgical nursing, and presently I do gastrointestinal nursing as a recovery room nurse. So I stand on my feet about 8 or 9 hours, 3 days a week. But this was introduced to me by a very good friend that Dr. Lee Osler knows. He's a dentist, a very renowned dentist here in the area that I live in. And he pretty much reached out to me. He said, I understand you're going to be retiring pretty soon. And, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm not really sure yet. I do things, in the church with ministry and things. And he said, well, you may want to look at this company or this breakthrough and see it might be something that you would, like to, kind of do as a side gig. And I said, okay. So he sent me some information. A lot of it was pretty complex, very scientific. I didn't look at it. I mean, he kept sending it to me for about 6 months. I didn't even open up the messenger for a while because it was just too much that he just kept, sending it to me. But it wasn't until he invited me to a cookout, and they had a workshop. They invited some people over that had already been on the product. And I think what caught my attention, a couple things, is that, I've always been a nurse that's been look at people holistically. So I've always tried to look at, the body, the mind, and the spirit. And I'm always open to the holistic, arena. So I've, kind of done oils, I've done massage, care, chiropractic. So it's open to it. When people started sharing with me about their testimonies, that's what caught my attention. And specifically, there was a gentleman that lives here in Georgia that had a prostate issue, had some bad cells in his prostate, and had surgery, ended up going home and having stress incontinence. And his urologist pretty much told him that he would have to live with that the rest of his life. He also suffered chronic pain from a 7 out of 10 as far as his discomfort was concerned. But he said that, a nurse reached out to him and kind of told him about this product. And he said, well, I don't have anything to lose, so let me, try it. And he got on it. And within 2 weeks, his chronic pain level went down from a 7 to a 2. And the urinary incontinence that the urologist said that would not get better, is something that he would just have to live with the rest of his life, was resolved in 90 days. And I looked at him and I'm thinking, like, this does not happen, and the beauty of that, him telling me this testimony is I worked on a floor that took care of patients just like him. And of course, I don't know, what they deal with when they go home, because they, only stay in the hospital for 23 hours. So the testimonies is what caught my attention first. The second thing was this Genesis story. You know, being a nurse for as long as I have, a lot of my patients are on a lot of different medications, which cause one side effect, and that's, you know, medication causes another side effect. And unfortunately, they're always told that they have to kind of live their new normal. That's just the way it is. And when I looked at the Genesis story and saw how Virtus, you know, said no to big pharma, and, you know, and he didn't care. I mean, my understanding is he didn't care if it was just one person, you know, it was no deal, you know, because they said, you know, in order for us to make this deal, which I'm sure that he gave up a huge sizable check that would last his family for generations. But for when he said, you know, no, we can't do that. Like, cause they told him, you know, people have to stop taking the product, send it back, so to speak. And the big pharma basically said, well, people die every day, you know, and I'm thinking like, no, you know, and then like he took, you know, he didn't care if it was one person. And when I think about that, I think about Jesus, because he, you know, he died for all of us, and he would have done it for one. And when Virtus said no to big pharma, you know, that's what got my attention. That's what really thought, okay, this kind of seals the deal.
Wow. Hey, if you don't mind real quick, Rebecca, when you went to the corporation way back when, did you get a chance to meet Virtus Norton?
No, I did not meet him that day. I met Tyler.
Okay. And what was your impression of him at that time?
I had a good sense that they were being honest, and that they were people of integrity. That's kind of as far as it went.
Cool.
And that was important to me. That was the most important thing.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Doria, because that, as far as the Genesis video, because with my background as a stockbroker, that was the first thing I looked at, was after I saw what happened to my best friend's kid, right? The testimonial. And then I looked at that Genesis video within 24 to 48 hours, and that was it. I was done. I was all in. So, Kaye, come on real quick. Unmute, girl. You're muted.
Okay, there we go.
Yay! You were concerned we weren't going to get you, Kaye.
Well, this computer of mine has decided to give me some problems, so we'll just do this on my phone. So,
well, it looks great. We can hear you. We can hear you well. I've never met you. I know that multiple people referenced to have you come on. I know you don't like doing these kind of things, but we really appreciate. First off, how long have you been a nurse, Kaye?
I was a nurse. I've been a nurse for 35 years. I graduated when I was at the age of 32 after having 6 children and helping to raise a couple of nieces. And I went back to nurse when my youngest went to kindergarten. And for 35 years, I retired 2 years ago out of necessity because of the work injuries that I had received. And my neck. So I've had a neck fusion. I've had to have my knees replaced from being on my feet for 12 hours a day. My hand, I actually lost the use of my left hand, and it was in extreme pain. So I wasn't really ready to retire, but I physically needed to retire.
Yeah. How did you come across this technology? What's your story? What's your ASEA story?
Well, I have a sweet sister-in-law and brother-in-law, Sharon and Cameron Kluke. They came to my house once in the springtime of last year, and I think they were going to tell us about it, but they never did. But she kept getting that impression that she needed to tell me. So finally they got on the phone and said, look, we have something that will really benefit you. You need to try it. Well, being a holistic nurse, I am like these other 2 nurses.
If you don't mind, Kaye, real quick, for those, how would you define a holistic nurse versus a traditional nurse?
someone who looks to bring health and wellness to others, not by just using medications.
Okay.
Because medications always have a side effect. And then you have to take another medication to counteract that side effect, which is something that I was experiencing. In order to survive each day, I was on quite a few different medications that I shouldn't have been taking as much as I was taking, in order for me to be able to get up and go to work every day. And then I had retired, but I was still on these medications to keep me going. And so when someone presented something to me that would heal my body without side effects, I did a lot of research.
Okay. Okay, so explain that real quick. You're looking at research. What does that look like to you? What you did?
I did go to PubMed. I did watch the Genesis video. I talked to, I thought it was Dr. Walker that I talked to, but it may have been, all of a sudden, Jerry
White. Okay.
Jerry White. I did a Zoom with him. I watched multiple stories. I understood a lot of how it works with the cells, because the cells have always fascinated me. And then my husband got involved because he's an electrician and loves the electrical part. In fact, he explains how it works so much better than I do because of his knowledge of electricity and how it works even in our body. So
was it more the research, or was it the testimonials, or what swayed you to give it a shot?
What swayed me to give it a shot is my husband said it's not going to hurt to give it a try. And we had gone, so we just ordered it. And we had gone on a 5-hour hike. I had fallen twice. I was pretty miserable by the time we got off that hike. But when we got home, my ASEA package was on the porch. We immediately opened it. We both drank the molecules like we had been instructed to do. And I took the Renew 28 and I put it on my left hand that I had no use of. And the pain was so bad in my hand that is one of the reasons why I couldn't work. The pain throughout the day was horrible. And I put it on my hand, and that pain, after 3 times in 5 minutes, that pain went down to a 3 in 20 minutes. And the relief was a miracle to me, because I literally asked my husband almost daily to please, we just need to cut this hand off because the pain was so bad. And then I got excited that it helped me. So then I had to share with my 90-year-old father.
Did your pain come back? Did the discomfort come back, Kaye? Did it always stay gone? Did it come and go? And how much are you drinking, all of y'all, but how much are you drinking a day now versus how much did you start off with?
I started off with 4 ounces a day. And I think I had a little bit of a detox because I had a couple of days where I felt kind of fluish. But then I increased it to 6. And now I usually drink 6 to 8 ounces a day. Okay.
Okay, real quick, Lee, do you mind popping on real quick and kind of go over the word detox on how you would, because I think when a lot of people get on this, and a lot of people will have, I call it a cleansing, a rebalancing, but can you kind of go over that real quick?
Harkening back to what Rebecca said, keeping it really simple. Good cells get better, bad cells get better, really bad cells go away.
I like that, Rebecca.
When cells function better, like they're designed to function, they naturally and normally get rid of toxins. And by toxin, we're not just talking about environmental toxins that you might breathe in or eat or absorb through your skin. We're also talking about metabolic toxins, things that happen just in the normal course of daily metabolism, of burning glucose in your mitochondria to make energy, and of having proteins that become dysfunctional or folded or misfolded or whatever. This is the cellular detritus or debris that accumulates in the cells. And the cell has a very natural mechanism built in, especially liver cells, that debride or remove these damaged cell parts, as well as chemicals that we wind up having in our body, whether they're drugs or coming from our diet, or we breathe them in through our lungs or whatever. They wind up in largely in fat storage. And so part of detoxing is taking all of these fat soluble chemicals and making them water soluble, so that we can then excrete them through our normal excretory processes, the kidneys and the bowel and so forth. And one of the reasons why that's important is because when we improve cellular communication, when we get better cell signaling occurring, we're able to make glutathione. And glutathione is a very important detox agent, which binds to these toxins or these bad molecules and helps to remove them. It's a very natural process. So suddenly, when good cells become better, and when not so good cells become even better themselves, all of a sudden we're dumping more garbage. We're able to access what's been stored away or hidden or tucked away in our cells, and we're able to get rid of them. Well, that can produce, as was mentioned, kind of a flu-like, feeling, because all of a sudden you're burdening the detox system. Well, some people will experience that and they go, "Oh, this isn't supposed to happen. I'm supposed to be better, but I feel worse." And I like the word worser. I'm worser. And so they experience a period of time, but actually this is kind of a backdoor compliment to the whole process. It means that your cells are suddenly working like they should have been working. And so you kind of have to just see yourself through that. This isn't for everybody. Not everybody has this, but it happens often enough. It happened with my wife, and it took about 4 or 5 weeks for her to, support herself and move through. And at the time, we didn't have anybody introduce this to us. We just kind of blindly started using it. And so we had to kind of figure this out the hard way. But it can happen. And when it happens, you just go, well, I either need to maybe lower the amount I'm consuming so that I can acclimate a little more kindly to this, or I have to be more supportive of it by hydrating better or doing some other things to help improve the lymphatic drainage or the excretion processes that are occurring. But it's a very natural, normal thing. And the reason why we have a problem with it is because we actually had a problem beforehand where I wasn't detoxing like I was supposed to be. That's why I wind up sick.
So a lot of people, though, go ahead, Rebecca.
I liken it to, I say, they tell me they're having this reaction. I say, good. Can you imagine what's in there that needs to come out?
Yeah.
And
now, Rebecca, real quick, do you, three of y'all, do y'all tell them up front when they're starting that they may have it? But I've had people that go, "Oh my gosh, it made me sick.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this." So what are y'all's advices on that? Okay.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead. I always start them small, and I warn them about the detox because
what's small? What does small mean?
I will start them. It depends on their illness.
Okay.
I will start them on 2 ounces a day for about 4 days. And then I increase it to 4 ounces a day for about 3 days. Okay. And then I increase it just such as that. And I have found when I have done that with the people that I've helped that the detox was less. So it was very good for me that I went through that because it gave me experience. And I know that my liver was full of toxins because of the medications that I was on just to keep moving.
Right.
So, and it also depends on their age as well.
Right. Okay. Doria, what do you say?
Yes, I'm an educator. Nurses are educators, so I like to prepare them, what to expect. So I kind of do the same thing. I do just like Kaye said, if a person has a major health challenge, I start them out really slow, even maybe 1 ounce twice a day. But I also tell them use a gel as often as they can in between until they get up to to the 3 ounces or the 4 ounces twice a day. If they're not having any, a strong detox effects, then then they're safe enough to, not safe, but, increase it up. Because I'd much rather have them a better experience. Because I think when I first started, I was having people, drink the 2 ounces or the 4 ounces twice a day. And then people's blood pressures were going up. People that had high blood pressure, those were going sky high, and people that had, discomfort in their joints, that's kind of debilitating, then it increased that discomfort. So I thought, it's best better to kind of, taper them up versus, giving it to them all at one time.
Yeah.
So Lee or Rebecca, can you kind of go over that? Why would somebody's blood pressure go up?
You take that one, Lee.
We don't know, why.
Their body's working.
Yeah, the body's working. Other people have the
You need a
opposite.
toxic dump into the kidneys, right?
Yep.
And so if you're not drinking enough water, there's nothing to push it out.
Other people have just the opposite effect. They improve. And so, the point of this, and this, maybe I could go here for just a moment. There's a scientific cellular principle that's called hormesis. For those who want to jump into PubMed or other sources, it's spelled HORMESIS. It's a very important principle because the way I explain this is, if you have a low amount of stress versus a high amount of stress, you're going to activate cellular healing pathways. If you have high levels of oxidation stress, you're going to activate inflammatory pathways. That's where disease comes from. But it's the same agent. It's still oxidation. It's a low level versus a high level. And so this hormesis is it's a dual response mechanism, because in the cell, it's very simple. Back to Rebecca's theme, it's really simple. You either have oxidation or you don't. And if you have oxidation, it's a matter of how much or how little you have. But the cell is really kind of, in the sense, it's binary. It either has oxidation or it is in homeostasis or balance. And when we mildly insult or stress the cell, then good things happen. And that is a principle of what we call the redox lifestyle. This can happen through exercise, through taking vitamins and antioxidants, through using herbs, by fasting, by intermittent fasting, by keto dieting periodically. All of those things produce a mild or low level bit of stress in the cell. And that's the mechanism that makes this whole thing work. It's a redox pathway. We want to activate these pathways that otherwise would say, we're in trouble. We've got to do something to help this person because there's an insult, there's an assault. Something bad is going to happen unless we respond in an appropriate way. And when we practice that, when we exercise that by repetitively, intermittently doing things that build resilience and fitness, that's the mechanism. It's a reduction oxidation mechanism. That's why ASEA works. ASEA is a solution of electrolyzed saline. That means those are oxidants. And when we mildly stimulate the cell in that manner, we are building cellular resilience. We talk about this cascade effect through the body that flips switches. It's turning on redox switches or redox oxidation sensitive switches that activate the pathways that produce glutathione, autophagy, which is cellular cleanup. That's the Pac-Man that cleans up the damaged proteins. It activates mitochondrial biogenesis, so we can wind up making more energy and be more alive. All of that happens because of this redox mechanism. And so that might be more convoluted than you wanted, but it's about hormesis. And this is, if you stand back and think about the next 20 years, where is healthcare research taking us? It's taking us to anti-aging. If you want anti-aging, which is the same thing as better healing, if you want to turn on the body's capability and ability to respond to stress, this is it. And that's why this is so fun, is because this is the new category in health that we really have, and we have kind of the corner in the market. There isn't anybody else out there doing this, although they will try. Big Pharma is even going to try this. They're headed for the big dollars as well, and they're going to do it pharmaceutically, but it will not be what we're doing. So that's how I approach that.
Hey, Kaye, real quick, how are you doing now? Where's your level of your boo-boos, where you were before versus where you are now? Are you been able to live a normal life?
Oh, I live better than a normal life. My hand, so when I put that on my hand and that pain went away or decreased, I probably sat there and put it on every hour for the next 3 hours while I was awake. And then every day I put it on about 4 times on my hand because it was so wonderful to not have that horrible pain. 2 weeks after my hand pain decreased significantly, I bottled 24 quarts of peaches in it. And I was able to use both my hands. And it was phenomenal for me to not have that horrible pain. And the rest of my body, I do not take ibuprofen, Tylenol, aspirin. I'm definitely off my pain medications. And my life is so much better than it was a year ago. We've been on it for a year now. We did a 10-hour hike in Glacier National Park just a few weeks ago, and the trail gave out on me. I felt literally flat on my face like a tree. And I was only a quarter of the way down from that hike, but I was able to get up, finish that hike. We got back to our campsite. I took 4 ounces of ASEA. We woke up the next morning and neither one of us had any pain and went on another hike. My knees that were constantly in pain, even after knee replacements, no longer hurt me. And it is wonderful. I ski black diamonds without braces. And I did not do that 2 years ago.
That's Doria, how's your life changed?
Well, I got on the product again just because I was going to do this as a side gig. And I really didn't think I had any health challenges because I wasn't on any medications. Okay. But I think, I was in denial, so to speak, because if you've been a nurse as long as I have and you've worked your 12-hour shifts, you have a lot of discomfort. And I think what happens, you just compensate and you think, okay, I'm just aging and I'm just got to have to live this way and just kind of, deal with it. So, the first time I took it in 3 days, I slept like a baby. 8 hours through the night. And I know it's deep sleep, and that's where healing takes place when you're in that deep sleep. And I hadn't slept for probably 35 years, maybe 3 to 4 hours every night, and then getting up in between, to go to the bathroom. And then the discomfort that I thought I didn't have, it resolved. What had happened was, as I worked 2 12-hour shifts, it would usually take me half a day to recover, just from trying to, move, have more endurance, be able to do the things that I enjoy. And being on the product, I was able to jump out of bed and do the things that, that was kind of curtailing me before. And I must say that, and we all have experienced this, I've been on it for 5 years. I don't have, we used to have medicine cabinets, in our bathrooms, which I don't think people utilize those anymore, but I don't have any over-the-counter medications anymore. I don't have anything for my allergies, which is really prevalent here in the South. I have not had any discomfort, or I want to say headache, because I know that's a medical term, but I haven't had one in 5 years. So, it's interesting that when you first start out on it, I always say it knows exactly where to go in your body, where the greatest need is. And then once that you're, as Dr. Lee was saying, you're in that state of hormesis, then it kind of moves into another area. And so there's the other thing I was bothered with is perfume, or if somebody had hairspray and they were spraying it. And I was at the convention last year, and my roommate, I heard her spraying, and I was thinking, like, what is that? And for the first time in many years, that didn't bother me. Whereas before, I would close up, I would have an asthma attack, or I would get, a bad feeling or headache or something. So it's just really interesting to see how, as we continue to take it, how it improves your body. And, for me, I want to live in that state of wellness, just like, Dr. Lee Osler said, I want to have a life of vitality. I'm 68. So I want to live a life of vitality. I don't want to be debilitated, be in a wheelchair, be incontinent, take care of patients that I've taken care of all these years. And so I'm going to stay on this product the rest of my life. It's important. I want my cells to be as healthy as they can be, so I can be resilient to the stress that we deal with every day.
Wow. Being proactive for your health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca,
Hey, real quick. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
want to ask Rebecca before we get too far along, because I know you've had a health challenge. I don't know that maybe I just wasn't listening well when you were speaking. What's your story there?
Do we have all night?
You got 10 minutes, girl.
I'm just going to tell you that I am still on this earth because God wants me still on this earth.
Amen.
That's the one thing I'm going to tell you right up front. But I do believe that God sent this product my way because he saw what was coming and knew that I needed it. I didn't realize you didn't know that, Dr. Osler, but I was diagnosed. I started seeing double in 3 years after I started using the product. And I was having trouble swallowing. I was actually on an ASEA cruise and would have to lean forward and put my food in my mouth, lean forward and take a sip of water, and I could swallow face down, but I couldn't swallow face up. Weirdest thing, just never could fit. Anyway, it turned out to be a large bulge in an artery in my brain. And in fact, the surgeon said it was an inch big when he got in, and it had not ruptured. Now, you're talking about your body working to keep things at bay and to protect you. I know that my body was working. I had the repair. 48 hours later, I left the hospital. He said he put in 2 stents, did not even have to put coils in it, which they usually do, because it was 95% full of clots. Why? Because my body did exactly what it was supposed to do. And he told me, he said, this was a birth defect or an injury. He said it was much too big to be anything but. And anyway, he said it'll start to shrink in about a year, and then it'll shrink to the size of a raisin, and that's where it'll stay. 6 months later, he couldn't find it. It had completely resolved. Mm-hmm. So I had a car accident, and they knew that I had had the problem because I told them. So they look at you from head to toe, and they couldn't figure it out. They could just notice some artifact, but they couldn't even tell what it was. So that was just pretty amazing. But during the process of having that problem, I had collapsed in my kitchen. My hip was bothering me. So 3.5 years after the surgery, I thought, I don't want to be 70 looking at hip replacement. I could use Renew 28 and have complete relief to go to sleep. But every time I lay down, I would have to remember to use it because I was having a problem. So I went in for a scan. Turned out I had bad cells in an ovary. Went in for the surgery. It was completely encapsulated inside the cyst, inside my ovary, and he was able to just bag the ovary up intact. He had mentioned a biopsy, and I told him absolutely not. So he called me 48 hours later, and he said, Dr. Strickland here, you're cured, no treatment needed. Wow. How many people do you know that go through that? So fast forward to the car accident that I just mentioned to you, and I want people to understand there's nothing wrong with my body because I have bad cells. People make bad cells every single day. It's what your body does with it or doesn't do with it that determines your state of health. Fair enough, Dr. Osler?
Yep.
So I had this car wreck, and because they searched me from top to bottom, they were sure I was going to have a broken bone, which I didn't have any. It was a bad car wreck. Took me months to recover from tissue damage, but they found a place in my kidney. Turns out I'm on the phone with Chapel Hill. We do a Zoom. He said, yes, I know exactly what this is. And he said, we're going to have to, he said, you can do an ablation or something. Well, that sounded like rupturing it and making it spread. And I wasn't interested in that. And then he said, we'd bit biopsy it. I said, so you can put a needle in it and make it spread. That's just my personal feeling about it all. I wouldn't tell anybody else to do that or not do that. He said, or we can remove it and you can live happily ever after. And so I said, if I was your mother, what would you tell me to do? He said, get it out and live happily ever after. I did not even lose my kidney. He went in, it was completely sealed off in a hard membrane hanging off the tail end of my kidney. And I had what they call a partial nephrectomy with just a border of my kidney gone. It's just been the most amazing thing. And that's why I tell you that I don't understand it. I don't share my stories like on support groups on Facebook, especially the brain one, because it doesn't serve to encourage anybody on that site. They're in wheelchairs, you know, they're struggling through life. And so I just support them. I've never shared my story on there. I'm just supportive of them. But I know that God has led me. If I could even just tell you what's even going on right now, every step where a door needs to close, it closes. And another door opens, and it's a better door than I could have ever imagined. And I know that God led me to this door of ASEA. I know he did.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'd just like to say this. We speak in wonderful, opinions and terms and try to describe what is almost indescribable. But, I would just say this. The results occur because this is how cells are designed to work. And when we play by the rules of the cell, the way they were designed to work, when we align ourselves with those rules, then good things result. That's the way we're designed, right? And so in that regard, people say, well, this sounds like, just for lack of better terms, the magic. It's like things that are miraculous are things that are inexplicable, right? And it's like, well, they're only explicable because we can't find the word that was required to explain it. And what I say is, and it's not discounting anything that otherwise might be put in the realm of miraculous, but a miracle is just something that we don't understand, right? But the understanding of this is that this is the way the cell was designed to work. And so my point is, this is kind of the hand and the glove type of thing. When we electrolyze saline, we're creating the very molecules that our body naturally makes. And we're utilizing them. And the reason why they work like this is because they are aligned with the principles and the pathways of how redox cell biology functions. And it's been this way since the beginning of dirt. This is the way redox works. This is the world around us. And biologically, this is what redox cell biology is all about. And that's why finding this company, when you say you were this door that opened for you, well, every one of us had a door that opened for us when something was a roadblock or shut in front of us. And so to all those who are watching, listening, wondering, still kind of what this is about, I promise you, I've done the research. I've written 2 or 3 books on the science. I probably, as well as anybody, could tell you exactly what's happening. But the reason this works, the reason why redox lifestyles work, is because they are aligned with how the rules of the cell dictate that they work. And that means that this is not an intervention. Doria talked about holistic, this idea of working with the body. Well, we work with the body because this is exactly how the body works. And so for me, that's a really comforting idea. In the book Redox Matters, I used the expression, I think it was in the preface or the introduction, that these are God's molecules. And I don't want to overly wax religious on anybody that doesn't view it with the same thing. But the point of that is to say that this is the way the body is designed to work.
Guys, we're going to, Danny Doyle has a call right at the top of the hour. But I want to throw in something here that you talk about the principles of how the body works, Lee. And I want to now say that the principles of being a human is, how did you hear about it, Rebecca? How did you hear about it, Doria? And how did you hear about it, Kaye? The miracle is that you heard about it.
Yep.
It's the connections. It's connecting everyone here right now that's watching this. Someone invited you. And if we don't share it, if someone didn't share it with you, Miss Rebecca, where would you be? I know where I would be. I don't think I'd be here. I was on 500 pain pills.
I can tell you what, Dr. Rich Michael, he's on our advisory board with ASEA, for those of you that don't know, and he is my primary care physician here in North Carolina. And he has said to me multiple times, I do not know where you would be without ASEA. And he was a mainstream medicine doctor.
Yeah, we had him on our show last week with Ed. But just think about that. Where would you be without this? And the only way we hear about it is because our founder chose not to go the route where so many companies go, which is to let's get the Waltons richer. Let's make Pfizer richer. Let's make Bezos richer. No, don't do that. Okay, we deserve, because we represent the company, we have no middle people. We are the middle people sharing it with you. And I go, why shouldn't we make the income? Why should all the income always go to the big companies? And guys, we have a sick system. Our medical system is broken. Our healthcare system, our food delivery, our big pharma, big government is broken. And we here have the answers, some of them. It takes some common sense, good nutrition, good exercise.
Yes.
Yeah, good water, get your butt up and get moving. As I say, sometimes suck it up, Buttercup. You just got to do this. You got to take care of yourself. But guys, I want to thank Rebecca. I kind of threw her on the spot last week, and thank you so much for accepting. We will not be here next Friday for obvious reasons. A lot of us will be in Salt Lake City doing our North American convention, our North American conference, I should say. We will be back the following Friday with Alan Noble. So please do not miss coming back. And again, I do want to invite you guys to go listen to Danny Doyle. If you want to hear another major life changed,
Yes.
go listen to Dan Doyle. And I'll give you the number real quick. If you guys want to write it down, he's on in 3 minutes. And I would suggest that you go from here to there, because he's going to talk a little bit more about seize the day and unlock your full potential. And the Zoom ID number is 850. So 850 two times, and then 8888. 850-8888. That's a Zoom ID. Zoom, get in, type that in. Dan Doyle, Conversations with Dan Doyle, a Redox Journey. We all have our journey. Get on yours if you're not here. Please get back to the one that brought you on the call. Don't go to Amazon to buy it. Don't make Jeff Bezos more money. Don't do that. Come back to the one that introduced you. We'll take care of you. We, like Doria said, Doria, we're educators, right? Okay, that's what we do. We share with compassion what we have, because they need to hear about it. So with that, Rebecca, you're a sweetheart. Thank you so much. Love those grandbabies. We're going to go see our grandbaby here in a couple of days in Salt Lake City. So we are ecstatic to go see Phoebe. So with that, guys, thank you. God bless. The recording will be up within about an hour at Dr. Osler's redoxmatters.com website. All of our recordings are there. Please go there, share those right now. Pop over and go see Dan Doyle. Thank you, guys. God bless.
Bye,
Hi,
everybody.
thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr.
Bye.
Lee.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.